This is an antique ring set with a violet sapphire. Depending on your point of view, that stone could be either an eye-catching adornment or a chemically interesting pebble. Both perspectives are completely correct, although each is just one facet of a greater whole. In fact, once you know a bit about them, you might start to see that gemstones have always been both mundane and magical.
Are you ready? Then we'll begin.
It's probably impossible to know what the first gemstones were, and that's because humans have been drawn to them since before the dawn of history. River-tumbled rocks were drilled and worn as beads, and people have been shaping materials like amber since the Stone Age. The first stone that we actively mined was likely lapis lazuli, which is also what the Ten Commandments were said to be written on. Nowadays we say that it's semi-precious, but the four precious gems have been enchanting us for almost as long. Emeralds were coveted by the ancient Egyptians, the ancient Greeks loved sapphires, and rubies were traded in ancient China. I am leaving one out, but we'll get to that in a second. The point is that cultures all over the planet worked with gemstones, and as far back as we can find, there were mystical meanings assigned to them. The idea that gems should be cut is a lot more recent though. For most of history, they were polished into domed shapes called cabochons, and the practice of imparting facets only caught on in 10th century Persia. Those designs inspired European gem cutters, and the next few centuries saw better tools and methods being developed. The most impactful of those was a device called a scaphe. Wikipedia will tell you that a Flemish jeweler named Ludwig van Berken invented it in 1476, but here's a diagram of one that Henry Arnott drew in 1439. Ooh! Either way, the scaphe allowed jewelers to effectively work with diamonds. And since I just said the D word, let's quickly cover a few myths about that stone. Anyway, increased quality led to increased demand, but even before that, harder stones like rubies were worth more than softer ones like amethysts. Popularity also played a role, but to see why gems were precious in the first place, we need to look at something else too. By the way, when you use the word too to mean as well, the letter O appears twice. The same thing goes when it means excessively, like in this aside is already taking too long. Too might sound like TO, but the difference between the two is too important to overlook.
Oh, shut up.
Now, it might seem absurd for a rock to be worth anything at all, but gems do have some genuinely enchanting properties. Take sapphires and rubies, for example. They're made of the same thing, but different impurities give them distinct colors. When corundum forms naturally, those impurities aren't evenly distributed, so it's somewhat rare to find stones that are both transparent and uniform in color. That apparent perfection lets barely visible qualities shine through, revealing a subtle sort of life that has a hypnotic effect on us. When you add in their rarity, their history, and the skills needed to cut them, the value of gems starts to make sense. At the end of the day, yes, they're really just pretty rocks, but maybe they are a little bit magical too.